Okay, let's talk about our third destination. Um, we went first to St. Martin, second to St. Lucia, uh, third to Barbados. So this is our fourth stop, and it's going to be Antigua. Um, on our way to Antigua, we passed Montserrat. That's what this island is here. Montserrat was devastated by volcanoes uh, starting in 1995, and most recently in 2010, two-thirds of the island is not habitable at this point. Look it up. It's quite an interesting tale. You can see some of the ash along the edges of the shoreline here. It was definitely interesting. And a little rainbow there. Here's a panorama before we headed into port in Antigua. So at Antigua we did the Scenic Antigua and Beach excursion, which included a fort up on a hill, and then Nelson's Bay, I guess it's called, or Nelson's Port. Anyway, so here are the photos of us heading in to dock. So as you can see, same turquoise water as most of the islands in the area. Very beautiful. You can see some remnants of some sort of old fortification here as we enter the port. They were clearly doing some work expanding the port here in Antigua. So we got into the port, and then the ship basically did a 360 so that we could pull straight out, and I was able to take these pictures as the ship turned. Here's a nice panorama as well of the ship turning, and then now we're finally docked. Another panorama. Very pretty at Antigua. Lots of sugar production in the old days on Antigua. Most of the stuff we saw as we ferried around the island on the bus was old sugar production and churches. The one exception being the new cricket stadium. Apparently there's a fairly famous cricket player that's from Antigua, so now they have a very nice cricket stadium. And then apparently there's some story behind this green stone as far as it being native to the island, but I can't remember the story around it. So this was St. Barnabas Anglican Church. Most of these were from the 1600s. Most of them had been restored, including this one, I believe. A few pictures just out random out the window of the bus to St. Paul's Parish Church we drove by. Let's see if it says here. I can't tell. This one was also very old. Obviously, you can see graves in the around the church as well. So this was the fortification at the top of the hill. I forget the name of it. It's basically on the, believe on the very southern tip of the island. You can kind of see where the Atlantic and the Caribbean meet. So obviously one of the prettier views in the area, and obviously you can see quite a few yachts and sailboats anchored in the bay. Lots of pretty vegetation around this place, obviously a tourist spot. So from this vantage point over to the right, you can see more water if you keep going. Basically you can see like two sides of the island from here. So here's that panorama of this view. And then a UT fan. And basically we're walking over to the right and looking out over the island. Another one of those giant cactuses, again, like we saw on St. Lucia. Quite tall and I'm sure quite old. So the little grassy lawn back behind, this is a panorama from there. Antigua doesn't look quite as jungly as the other islands of St. Lucia and St. Kitts, but definitely tropical nonetheless. So this was basically even more to the right, looking over to the Atlantic side, I think, of the island, the windward side. Let's see here. So Antigua and Barbuda National Parks, Royal Artillery Area, the lookout. This is where I was taking those pictures. Here's a panorama from up on top. They had a water cistern. It's been there for hundreds of years. It still holds water, so I walked up there and took this panorama. At the time we arrived, one tour bus was leaving, another tour bus was coming in behind us. By the time we left, there were 2 or 3 tour buses at the top. Not sure what was up there, but it was interesting for sure. Okay, now we are at Nelson's Port, I believe it's called. Don't know how it skipped all those photos, but we're just entering. There's a long pathway here. So basically, you're walking past sort of the outer gates. Little miniature cannon there, and then obviously a rock formation. They've taken these conch shells and stuck them in crevices in the wall. You can see we're headed toward the gate. This was an outside wall. See several buildings. Most of these still in use. Admiral's Inn, bar and restaurant, hotel rooms, obviously. So this was a wood carving place, and then above that, I think it was a travel place, and then this is an actual sail company. They were actually working on sails when we were there. This was under the portico of a little gift shop. Obviously that was an old tree over to the left, and you can see it here to the right. And then this was a barracks, I believe, and then the Dockyard Museum is a bit newer. Clearly there's cannons and all sorts of things. We had a walking tour guide. We went past an actual some actual working folks here that were working on boats, and then obviously there were anchors all over the place. So this thing over here apparently was something originally, but now it's apparently privatized and part of a hotel or something. Anyway, this whole little bay kind of spans to the right from here. Obviously on the opposite side you can see it's more private. There's homes and obviously all kinds of boats moored in this little bay. And then obviously some very large yachts. Very nicely landscaped and all obviously quite well kept from being here since the British were occupying this area. So we're now out on the point, and you can see over here to the right is the entrance to the port, and they were explaining that apparently when it was functioning they had a chain that ran across this just below the water line, and when their enemies were attempting to invade they had the chain just below the water, and it would basically tear the bottoms of ships off that tried to enter, and then when the British would enter they would drop the chain to the bottom so that ships could pass. Close-up shot of all the boats on the opposite side. Some very large lifts over here going on with some very large sailboats. They never explained what this was over here, but you can clearly tell that that used to be some sort of military something over there. Not sure what that's, a hotel or what that is. A couple of anchors. Apparently this wall and that wall, this was originally some sort of building, and you can see the things that you turn here. They gave us some sort of explanation as to what turning these did, but I can't remember what it was now. But obviously the building's gone, but the foundation's still there, and these things are still there. Very pretty flowers everywhere. Of course, this being a British, former British whatever, and a phone booth, we had to take our picture of. These folks were clearly having a better day than we were on their luxury sailboat. Clearly, lots of people with tons of money. So this was a tree that was backed by the museum that was apparently several hundred years old. I've got a better picture of it here in a moment. Can't really tell how big it is there, but it's very large. Some more buildings in the same general area. This was a back wall to the fortification area. They obviously had this walled off quite well. This was the back side of that museum. They had all kinds of neat naval stuff inside there. And then here's another picture of that same tree. You can see, obviously, this is a much better perspective to show you how big it was. And then back to the sales shop. I almost bought a shirt, but I didn't. They also had a bakery. Actually, the bakery was just to the left here, and there was quite a line inside, so I didn't go inside. All these buildings seem to be in use one way or another. Obviously, place to go eat if you needed to. Apparently this brick had a story. All of it actually came over from England as ballast in the ships, and then they used it to build stuff. And here's that same rock wall we saw coming in. Nelson's Dockyard, that's it. So there's a giant anchor out in front. Here's more of that bay as we're waiting for our bus. Super Al was our bus driver. He was great. The tour company actually gave us another tour guide, and he was really good as well. Clearly you can see private residences on the opposite side of the shipyard, dockyard. So here's another church. Oftentimes they were directly next to schools. And you can see there's a school right next to this one. Here's another church, that green stone. May be one of the ones I showed earlier. And then another church, which was very bright, Pepto-Bismol pink. I saw this picture earlier, and I'm not sure what I was taking a picture of here. I don't really know. Here there was some sort of what is it they have on the island? It's not a weasel, but a mongoose. I was trying to get a picture of a mongoose, I think. So here's another development that's apparently fairly new right out here on the end of this point. It looks really swanky right on the beachfront. So we make it to the beach portion of our Scenic Antigua and Beach. So this was a nice sort of public beach with a little restaurant up the hill. And then here was clearly a resort of some type. We probably weren't supposed to walk down there, but we did anyway. It was interesting, you can see here this little line in the sand that was fairly shallow and then it dropped off pretty quick. I'm not sure if that's common with beaches there, but this one was that way. It was kind of nice. And then obviously you can see I left this in because this is the only shot I had in the background. There's another resort way down this beach, and that looked really beautiful as well. And looking back the other way, and a panorama of the whole thing. And obviously you can see lots of people enjoying their day. It's super beautiful there. Not too windy, anything. It was very nice. It was interesting. Some spots in the sand was super fine, and then in some spots it was very grainy and large. That's the what look. This was the, hey, go sit on that rock and I'll take your picture. It didn't work out very well, but hey, what the heck, why not? That's the, I'm tired of you taking my picture. And then, I don't know, that's some look that Ella makes too, so I don't know. Very beautiful here. Further down the beach, actually out in the water a little bit. I have no idea. The tour guide was saying, oh, there's something over there, and I couldn't see it, but I took a picture anyway. The sun setting as we were getting ready to depart. We really enjoyed Antigua, probably go back. Did not, unfortunately, get to gamble or enjoy any of these fine restaurants. We were running behind that day. That's it for Antigua.